were panicking, weren't you? You were. Anyway, hello, good morning everyone. My name is Alex Kirsten. I've got a YouTube channel called Auto Alex Cars. I like high mileage heroes, project builds. Are there any kids in the audience? No, I think we're all right. Shit boxes. I love shit boxes. Anything with a story and anything with a bit of patina and a bit of rust is something that I really love. So today, Saturday, 11 AM, I'm going to invite a whole bunch of guests, and we're going to be talking about a subject that is really close to my heart, which is sheds and shit boxes. So, can we have a massive round of applause, please? We have got Sam Dawson from Classic Cars, James Sadlier, Classic Car Weekly, Ralph Hosier, Motor Skills, Andy Colbert, who is a broadcaster, and Craig Hutchinson from Mini Kits. Welcome everyone. Hey, wow, look at that one. Would you mind just getting up for a second? Your jacket is fantastic. Look at, round of applause for that jacket. Wow. Woo! Hello, sailor. Anyway, how are we doing? It's obviously Saturday morning. The show's fantastic. Have you seen some nice stuff around? Some nice tap? Yeah, I think so too. Right, okay. Gentlemen, we all like classic cars. We like sheds. We like shit boxes. We like value for money. So what we're going to do is go down the panel. We're going to have a little informal chat, really. So if we start from the end. We were talking backstage, weren't we? And a question arose, which is, what is the cheapest car that you've actually bought that was drivable? So let's start with you.
I was actually really impressed by what I managed to find for 500 quid once. Fiat Seicento Sporting, in a really unusual light metallic blue colour, 45,000 miles on the clock, fully documented service history, owned largely by this old bloke who just looked after it and cleaned it with a toothbrush as far as I could tell. It was then sold to a girl who hadn't passed a driving test yet. She didn't pass a driving test, went to university and just wanted it off her hands. 500 quid. I drove away straight away, and that was my daily driver for about 3 or 4 years.
Fantastic, that's what we like to hear. Is it still alive now?
No.
Okay.
Annoyingly, I needed a bigger car, I needed an estate to look stuff about, and I sold it to a friend of mine, who sold it to a friend of his, who crashed it. As far as I'm aware, it's still in the barn somewhere with a missing front bumper.
When you say a friend, are you talking about yourself? Did you crash it?
No, it isn't. It's another journalist who was graced the stage before who...
Name him.
The bumper.
Name him.
Skelton. It wasn't he who crashed it, it was the person who sold it to.
Fantastic. James, what about you?
Well, embarrassingly, I've never actually bought a car over £1,000 before, so...
Never over £1,000?
Yeah, well,
okay.
The most expensive car I've ever bought was a £700 Peugeot 406 Coupe, which I've just sold at Anglia Car Auctions. But the Ford Puma is probably the £500 winner for me. It had 50,000 miles on the clock. It didn't have the rusty wheel arches, which is quite typical.
Was it a 1.7?
No, it was 1.4 sadly, which is, yeah, if it'd been more aggressive, it was a 1.7
it really
for 500.
yeah.
But it was actually a Classic Car Weekly £500 challenge car, so I can't take all the credit for buying it. It's that man down there, Editor David Sinister, who located it. So round of applause for him for that one. But actually, it was a brilliant car, but unfortunately, I didn't have a garage, and the rust got to it eventually. So
it always does. Yeah.
It was a fantastic. I'll tell you what, though, if anyone could find one, they're absolutely brilliant cars to drive.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah.
Really
I had one as well, 500.
Did you?
It was a 1.7 then.
Yeah.
So I beat you. Ralph, what about you?
Our family car, which takes the family on holidays and everything, I bought about 3 years ago, just down the road there. Bought it sight unseen off eBay, which is always much more exciting, don't you think? And it was a Volvo 940, and we use that every day. It was an 850, the front wheel drive one, and I bought that 600 quid. And that has done about 20,000 miles a year for the last 3 years, and it passes everywhere. So 600 quid for a very solid piece of motoring, but that's not the best one. Before that, I bought a 940 for 50 quid.
Wow.
from a bloke on an RAF base who needed to get it off the base because the sergeant major was telling him off for leaving it abandoned in the car park. There was nothing wrong with it. And it was a 2-litre turbo, not particularly desirable, but it was interesting. And I revved it around and kept winding the boost up to see how far it could go.
Yeah.
And eventually, it went faster. And then eventually, it went bang.
Until it didn't go faster.
And then I took it to the scrapyard and got 200 quid.
Way! That's what we like. That is what we like. Value for money. And what about you, Andy?
Yeah, I've kind of changed my answer than I gave before. So I talked about a Chrysler Sebring I bought recently for 1,000 quid, 40,000 miles from new, and VW TDI engine in it. So I thought it would go forever. I suppose the biggest for me was about 20 years ago, but bear with me. It was a VW bus for 1,000 quid from a family friend. They'd not used it for a few years. Did it up, did some bits of servicing. It was rotting in all the usual places. And within a few months, it's ended up being used by Vernon Kay and Tess Daly for their wedding.
Wow.
So that was from scrapper to front page news, Daily Mail.
Fantastic.
So that's 20 years ago. But currently I'm running a Chrysler Sebring, which is a really good buy for 1,000 quid. Nobody knew them back then. And yeah, it's convertible, but even the saloons are pretty good value for money, and a VW TDI engine in them, so that's
Go forever, go forever. Nice. And Craig, what about you?
Well, what can I say? There's a part of me that gets up. My first car was a Citroen AX GTI. Whatever you do, don't tell my parents I owned it.
Okay.
I'm in trouble now. But yeah, it was £1,100. It was about 150,000 miles on the clock. I did a few modifications, drove it out of the showroom, turned left, the door fell off, so then I had aircon. I went another 30 miles and then the exhaust fell off, so I was like fuel efficient. And about 3 days later, it ended up in the field in 2 of the pieces. So yeah, it was a daily run.
It had a good life.
It
It had a very good life.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Good stuff. I think one of my favourite car deals I ever did was back when I used to work for a company called Car Throttle. Has anyone heard of that? Yes, you have. I convinced Sealy, and if Sealy are here, then close your ears, I convinced them to give me a winch because I bought myself a Mitsubishi Space Star, and I thought, wouldn't it be really cool to turn that into an off-roader? So I said to Sealy, could I have one of your finest winches, please? And they sent me over this winch, which was about 250 quid. I took it, looked at the car, and then thought, bugger, this is not going to fit. And then I went to a garage, and I saw a Skoda Octavia, high mileage hero, blue. It had 450,000 miles. And then I took the winch and I swapped it for that car. And then did a massive series on the car, and it was fantastic. But yeah, Sealy, I do owe you an apology because I never did anything with that winch. But hey, I managed to save another car from the scrapyard, which is pretty cool. Now, guys, we love high mileage heroes, we love recycling cars. That's what we're all about. What to you, and we'll go down the line, what to you does cheap motoring mean? Why is it so important to keep old cars going?
There's a mobility aspect, I think, because and Danny and I were talking about it on the stage yesterday. Do you really want to be a debt slave? Do you really want to spend your entire life paying off some loan or paying PCP or something like that, when actually quite often daily motoring and fun motoring sometimes, because you can find something interesting for not very much money, can be had for what you found down the back of the sofa, and then you can just carry on with your life. You can spend the decent money you've got on other things if you've got it, or motoring, it's almost peace of mind in a way, is not having to worry about your car. But also, there's really good stuff out there for not very much money.
Have you ever looked on Facebook Marketplace?
Well,
because I think most of us spend our lives on Facebook Marketplace.
I avoid Facebook Marketplace on the plane, to be honest. It is the home of what's your best price, mate. If you try and sell anything on there, the midnight text messages. I think the dodgiest one was, I was trying to sell a Volvo 440 I bought in a moment of madness, and I had a weird phone call from this East End geezer one night who wanted me to bring it to a patch of wasteland near a bridge in Glasgow. And I thought, I'm going to end up in a bank robbery, aren't I? I'm going to draw up, and a bunch of blokes with stockings over their heads are going to jump into the car and go, drive! So I avoid Facebook Marketplace, don't put anything on there now. Car and Classic cars for sale, places like that are brilliant. And what I love doing is actually, in the menu, don't put any make or model or anything like that in. Don't put any locations, just put maximum price, £1,000, 1,500 quid, whatever, and then just go, let's see what I can get. And the other day, I was on there, and I found a Jaguar XJR, XJ40 spec, TWR body kit, disc alloys. I mean, admittedly, it hadn't been on the road for 5 years, but what a car for 1,600 quid.
Did you buy it?
No.
Will you buy it?
Probably not. I would be insane to do so. But all I'm saying
You should buy it.
All I'm saying is they're out there.
Nice. James, what about you?
I think for me, it's about buying those cars that I couldn't afford when I was a teenager, and being able to kind of try a car for a few years and then move it on to the next owner. A bit like the Ford Puma, I always wanted one. When I sold the Peugeot 406 Coupe at ACA last weekend, I was so tempted. I kept seeing other cars. I almost went away with another car, and I thought, I can't. I just hold on to your money. And worse it was, my other half got a bit overexcited. I was trying to hold her back. You know, she said, you know, we can afford that. You know, that's only $2,000, or you know. And when you see an MGF go for about, you know, lovely cars, MGFs, I really do want one. When you see them go, a really good one go for about £700 and £800, you think, oh, I could see myself in that. And so yeah, it's about. I probably will do one day. I think it's just like I say, it's about having a car for a few years and moving on to the next one and trying them out. You can get a lot of car for a small amount of money these days.
Absolutely right, yeah. And Ralph, what does it mean to you, recycling cars, keeping old cars going? Because let's not forget as well, in the UK, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the average mileage expectancy of a vehicle is about 110,000 miles, which is nothing. Well, yeah, why is it so important then?
There's a number of reasons. First of all, if we buy less new stuff, then there's less of an impact on the planet from manufacturing, which is important. But also there's that society aspect. There's a lot of people who can't afford really expensive cars. And by really expensive, I mean anything over £1,000. And so we allow a lot of people mobility and freedom by making sure there's a good pool of cars that are under £1,000. It's really important for a lot of people. The other thing that I'd say about these wonderful old cars, particularly if you like classic cars, which can be a bit challenging to make reliable. I mean, people talk about half the thrill of them being, will I get to my destination or not? But if you're a bit hands-on there and you learn the skills and you think, I can make this work, there's a wonderful involvement you get. You develop your own skills in fixing things, which applies to a variety of other things, not just the car. And it's a great way of getting people involved in learning skills and getting more independence for themselves. I think they're fantastic.
Absolutely right, totally agree. How about you, Andy?
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying before. James was saying about that £1,000 mark. It promises so much, and I think I've fallen into that trap of seeing something that promises, and I think, yes, if I just do that to it, nip to Halfords, it'll be perfect. Sell for a profit or just make it usable. Fell into that trap with a Toyota Town Ace. Right as a peach. Well, it wasn't too bad, being patched up, but it was four-wheel drive, had the chrome wheels from the factory, had all the skylight roofs in it, the aircon. It was, I think this was a manual, diesel. What's not to like? The diesel engine hadn't run for a bit. Everything was there if you could get the engine running. So a few friends and myself, we tried to get it going. The engine ran, but there's oil starvation. But found some seats, put some seats in it, sold it for a profit. Just couldn't do the engine. That was the thing. But it promised so much, and for that kind of price bracket, I think if you're a car fanatic, you can buy things that are unusual, things that are forgotten about, things that kind of have just completely fallen off the radar. And if you just know, particularly through clubs and through sources, where to get the bits for it, you potentially, you're sitting on something that's really unusual and, absolutely fascinating. Particularly in terms of finding those little bits and pieces, the seats or the trim or whatever. That's part of the joy of it. Didn't drive it, unfortunately.
And Craig, keeping old cars going, why is it so important to you as well?
Well, to be honest, I think when it comes down to keeping an old car going, I might upset a few people, as I'm trying to explain, but having something like that opens up doors for the younger generation, because as they pass their tests, everything is high. Your insurance, the MOTs, keep getting a nice cheap car, getting you on the road for the first time. And it's like, it's a family thing basically. It's like dads can work, or even mums can work with their kids, like help repair these cars. Yes, the parts are probably hard to find, but that's the fun of going and looking for things. It's like, there's so many different directions that can be out there, and it's getting them a foot into it, but then also carrying the history of what you've grown up with them. But then you can personalise these cars yourself. Look what you've done with some of your stuff. That caravan, my God.
Oh, the Cara Cottage,
Yeah.
I think is one of our finest pieces of work.
Oh, well,
Yeah. That's also tax exempt. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So I know where you're staying tonight then.
Indeed, yeah.
But otherwise, it's like the personalisation behind it sort of thing. At least you know that, yes, let's say for example, it's a Volkswagen Golf, but you can make yours look different to everybody else's.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have these big companies looking down to you saying, you can't do that. But yeah, it opens up extra doors, but it's like also opens up another door as well. Like when it comes down to the kit car side of things, it allows that car to still carry on, but a new transformation. So it's like donor recycling, keeping it going. And it's like the other gentleman down there saying about being able to recycle and reduce the amount of impact we actually make out.
Exactly right, yeah.
But yeah, I believe it is the way to go right now, because electric is here, yes. It's not come on as fast as what they first thought. I still don't believe it's going to come on any faster at this very moment. The country is not ready for it.
Absolutely right, yeah. And Craig actually mentioned something quite important there. Classic cars, you know, insurance is a lot cheaper these days. If you've got a car over 40-year-olds, you don't pay for MOT. You don't need to get them MOT. You don't need to get them taxed. So to you guys there, you three guys there especially, classic cars, is it a good thing for maybe someone 20, 21 years old to get into? Money is very tight. Would you recommend it? And I'm going to put you on the spot as well. If you say yes, you would recommend it, what is a good classic car to start off with? Something reliable that you can daily drive, that they can take to their Tesco job every single day. What do we reckon, lads?
Okay, I'm maybe not going to say what you thought I was going to say. No, I wouldn't recommend they buy a 40-plus-year-old car, because a lot of these cars are already quite expensive. If you're spending less than £1,000 on something 40 plus years old, it is going to be a pile of rust. It won't start.
It will look like me.
It will be a world of woe. So, but what I would recommend instead is learn about the depreciation curve. See where cars are in terms of where they depreciate, what's at the bottom of its curve, what's at the absolute trough, and what's about to maybe turn that corner. Because I would say right now, the best value cars, which are also among the most fun, early 2000s hot hatches, R50 Mini Cooper, 206 GTI, Ford Focus ST170, MG ZR, cars like that, absolute bargains.
What kind of prices are we talking about there?
Less than £2,000.
Less than £2,000.
Yeah, I was on one of the sites the other day, and there were several R50 Mini Coopers in decent condition, not write-offs, for the 1,500, 1,600 quid mark.
Absolutely. And James and Ralph, say I'm 22 years old, I've saved myself £5,000. I'm going to make it a bit more vague now. I've got £5,000 to spend on a plus 40-year-old car. Thumbs up or thumbs down, and why?
There's a way of mitigating the problems there. So first of all, it doesn't matter what the age of the car is. What matters is what condition it's in. And if you're not that skilled at analysing that, find a mate who is and look at it. You can get some really old cars that happen to be perfect and carry on for a lot of years. You can get a 5-year-old car that's rubbish and will cost you a fortune. It's the condition that's important, not so much its age. 40 years old is challenging. But if you buy the right one, if you learn some skills on how to keep it maintained yourself, not the big jobs, but just maintaining it, you will save a fortune. And whilst you're maintaining it, you'll understand the things that are wearing out, and it will warn you before something becomes expensive. So there are ways that you can actually make it a little bit more affordable.
What about you?
If I was to advise someone that's going to buy a car over 40 years old that's MOT exempt, I'd always advise just to go and still take it down to the garage for an annual safety check. It's not essential or compulsory, but gives you that peace of mind that something's not going to go wrong at 70 miles an hour. But I don't know. For me, I always double check. I've fallen into the problems of parts availability before. I find a really nice car and there's not many of them on the road anymore. And sometimes there's a reason for that. And there's a lot of classics out there that have got so many parts manufacturers still producing them, but there's also a lot that don't. So just look out for parts availability, I would recommend.
That's also a very good tip, because there's nothing worse than buying a car and you've been not able to fix it.
And I'll add to that. So you said £5,000?
5 big ones.
That's an unimaginably large.
It's insane.
It's insane.
That gets you about 2 coffees here.
Well, what I would do, and this may be controversial, if you've got the space, I would buy 2 cars.
Oh,
So that when one breaks down, you've still got the other one.
fantastic. I'm going to put you on the spot. You've got £5,000. What 2 cars are you buying?
I'd probably buy there's a sweet spot. When you get to about 10 years old, cars have depreciated a lot, but they've still got a huge amount of life in them. So I'd look for something there, maybe a Volvo or something quite boring, to make sure I can actually get to my destination. And I would buy something exciting as well, a little sports car, maybe a Jaguar XK or something like that, because they're really low at the moment.
You calling a Jaguar XK a sports car?
Well,
Would we agree as a Jaguar XK a sports car?
I'm just going to say I'm just going to say Porsche Boxster. Just going to put that out there.
Absolutely. You can actually get those for about £2,000. It will be quite ropey, but you can. I actually bought one for Car Throttle many years ago, and that's now owned by Johnny Smith. That's that very car. Yeah. Right, well, ladies and gents, we do have a panel of experts here. I'm going to open up the floor to you guys. Do you have any questions for us about classic car ownership, classic car living with in general, high mileage heroes, ship boxes? Any questions, we will ask them. Has anyone got a question? Right, I'm going to grab your mic. Sorry, sir. Thank you very much. Right, let's not get blinded.
he's very energetic, isn't he?
I am quite energetic. There you go. What's your name and what's your question?
Alex Payne here. Quick question for Craig on the end there of mini kits. If you were to buy any kit car that wasn't mini based, what would it be and why?
Good question. Well, yeah, you go.
Right, okay. What kit car would I have if it wasn't mini-based? Only because it's out of my budget, like quite a lot. I do actually like the Ultimas. The Cobras don't interest me, but the Ultimas do. I like the sportiness, the Le Mans sort of style. But no, going back to the mini side, at least I can repair my back garden where the other one I've got to take it somewhere else. But no thanks for that.
You put him on the spot there, didn't you? Any more questions? Come on, we've got to have a question. We've got an expert, we've got a panel of experts here. Any questions? There we go, sir, over there.
Yeah, Mike Wood. Given the panel's answers to the, I would say shit boxes, but we've all bought them. I'm thinking, I've got Silver Shadow 2. It's the 40-year-old mark and all that. But obviously, if I was to take that down to my local garage, they're going to look at those hydraulics and they're not going to know a thing about them. So sometimes you've just got to know it and learn it yourself and trust yourself with it. So would you say that it's worth going to an absolute specialist in these cases? Because they're expensive.
Very good question.
There's a couple of points on that, and there's a really important part about everybody who's getting involved in this, learning the right skills for the thing you're doing. And it's one of the things that inspired me, quick plug here, to set up motor skills training, where we teach car maintenance skills to people who need a bit of help. So you can learn the skills to do it yourself, but some things like suspension and brakes you've got to do safely. So even if you do it yourself, get an expert to look at it and check it over. It's really, really important. But you're right, as cars get older, a lot of mainstream garages just do not know how to do it. In fact, anything over 20 years old, they'll struggle with.
what I'd say is there's a way to avoid getting into that situation in the first place. Because what I would recommend to anyone, I know we talk about, oh, let's take a punt on that. The reason why I didn't buy that Jag is I know what goes wrong with it. Read buying guides. Before you contemplate buying anything, read the buying guide and find out how much rectifying the worst case scenario on that car is. Because, sorry to say it, if you can't meet that price, you can't afford the car. You may be able to afford to buy it, but if you can't afford to fix the most expensive thing that goes wrong with it, you've got a ton of pig iron on your drive that you can't shift.
And there'll also be a good list of specialists in the buying guide that you can refer to go to.
Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube, isn't there? You can learn a lot from there as well.
And Classic Cars magazine and Classic Car Weekly.
Obviously.
Can I just say that I bought a Porsche 914 about 15 years ago. It was in Cyprus and he imported it. Nobody could touch it because it was in Cyprus. Really cheap. But the engine needed to come out. I watched wheeler dealers at China taking the 914 engine out. I used to run from the garage to the house, checking which bolt to take out. But I managed to take an engine out. And yeah, I got it checked by the club and by the guy called Kev Clark with the 914 register. Yeah, all was good. But yeah, it's worth having to go yourself, but keep people involved that perhaps know what they're doing.
Always have a friend who's more clever than you. That's what I do. Surround myself with more clever people. Right, oh, we have one question over there.
A few things. Congratulations, first of all, Alex, on the birth of your daughter. We saw you at the MX-5 and you were really excited, so
Thank you very much.
Love watching all your stuff.
Thank you.
It worked! And of course, all the team. It was lovely to meet all the team as well.
Thank you.
Having son bought an MX-5 for 500 quid and he's now probably 10 grand into it.
What?
Having turboed it, Alex.
Yeah.
What about a Mark II? They're getting us cheaper, well, they're cheaper than a Mark I, obviously.
Yeah.
We know what the issues are. Is it still worth buying a Mark II and budgeting for a grand's worth of bodywork?
Personally, I would say avoid the Mark II. I think it is the worst of the four generations. My tip currently would be for the Mark III. I think the Mark III is a fantastic platform, shares the same platform with the RX-8. Loads of tunability on there, loads of parts, loads of tuning companies now getting wise to it, so it doesn't rust as much as well as the Mark II, and I think the step up from Mark II to Mark I was very, very minor. It's more kind of like body styling. It looks naff as well, except for the Mark 2.5, which looks quite nice, but if you're going to be spending money on the Mark 2.5, then spend a little bit more and get the Mark III. The engines are stronger, it's a way better platform. I used to have one, I bought it for 1,500 quid and tarted it up a little bit and took it to the Nürburgring. And you know what, it's one of the most fun cars I've ever driven. Really, really good.
Can I just say, I bought an absolute mint of a Mark II during COVID. 75,000 miles from new. The owner, retired gentleman, had done an oil change over 3,000 miles, had the original alloys on it, original radio from a dealer, everything was perfect. The hard top never been touched. That was cost me 2.5 grand. Sold it with a profit of an extra grand on that. About a year later, it was perfect. Nobody had done any damage to it or modified it anyway. They are still out there, even a Mark II, but yeah, you have to be careful.
Still happen to have the microphone, so while I've got it, we're on about doing, kit cars, etc. We all know the engines are bulletproof in a Mark 1, Mark 2, etc., etc. What can we put the engine out of a Mark 2 into that makes it exciting?
MEV Exocet.
Yes, exercise.
That's a great shout.
But not only that, I'd say if you're going to look at kit cars, investigate the world of sevens, because they are Meccano-like, and there's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of great forums for low-cost builders out there, a lot of parts crossover. Pretty much any engine from a front-engine rear-wheel drive car can be in some way put in a 7, and there are people out there who know how to do it. The 7 is Colin Chapman's great gift to the world. It's almost a kind of a design without rights. So any 7.
Triumph Spitfire as well. I think you can put MX-5 engines in those as well.
Yes.
That's a good shout.
Or MGB.
Before it
Or
dissolves.
MGB.
Or midgets.
Right, we are going to have to wrap it up now because next up we've got Danny Hopkins who's going to be talking about getting into classic car ownership, classic car motoring. For now, thank you very much to our amazing panel. We will be back again a bit later on, and thank you for your questions as well. We'll see you soon. Cheers, guys.